Good day, second graders. I'm now going to read chapter 15 of Land of Stories. It's called The Northern Kingdom. And when we last left off with Alex and Connor, Sleeping Beauty had given them the spindle, so they're getting very close to getting all the things they need for the wishing spell. And now, chapter 15. Alex and Connor traveled into the Northern Kingdom by boat, a first for the twins. They found a fisherman just about to travel up the river into the kingdom and persuaded him to let them come aboard. Alex said they were lost and pretended to cry. She was very convincing, too. Connor, however, was not. He tried to join in on the performance, and things just became awkward. Thankfully, the fisherman allowed them to travel with him anyway. The boat was small and flat and had just enough room for the three of them. It traveled perfectly along with the river's current, so they didn't even need to row. The twins were enjoying the ride and were able to appreciate the scenery, pointing out every riverside village they saw. It was nice to travel without fear of a wolf or an ogre running up from behind them. The Northern Kingdom was very misty and cool. The twins could tell it was the type of place that would become freezing in the winter. The kingdom was covered with grassy fields and several bodies of water. An icy steep mountain range bordered the north. The boat traveled along the river into Swan Lake, which was appropriately inhabited by many swans and other birds. Snow White's palace sat at the edge of Swan Lake. It was short but wide, with tan marble walls, dark green domes, and several colorful stained glass windows, including an especially large one shaped as a bright red apple. "What's up with all the apple tributes?" Connor asked. "Didn't the apple almost kill Snow White? Why does she have it displayed every chance she gets?" "I suppose it's symbolic for the kingdom, like a cross in a church," Alex said, giving her best guess. There were no towns or villages near the palace. It had been built away from everything else and was an isolated world of its own. It seemed like such a lonely place. Alex had spent some time with her nose in the journal, rereading everything she could in case she'd missed something. She put it away and began searching the shore until she finally spotted what she was looking for. "Excuse me, sir," Alex said to the fisherman. "Can you please drop us off at that riverbank?" The fisherman steered the boat in that direction, and the twins got off and said goodbye to him. "Why are we getting off here?" Connor asked. "The palace is that way." "Connor, I'm tired of explaining everything to you. Here," she said, and handed him the journal. He read the pages that she had been looking over during their trip on the boat. So here is from the journal. Snow White's palace overlooks Swan Lake, and part of that lake flows into a moat circling the palace, which works to the advantage of anyone trying to sneak into the palace unnoticed. There is a hidden gate at the bottom of the palace that the moat runs through. It's right by the dungeon and is used to transport prisoners into and out of the palace by boat. It's easy to swim under the gate and then climb up onto the dock inside. The glass coffin is in a large storage room that used to be the Evil Queen's private chamber on the third floor. On the second floor, you'll find a large portrait of the Evil Queen herself just past the grand staircase off the main entrance. The portrait is actually a secret door that leads up to the chamber. Travel at night, so it's difficult for anyone to spot you in the water. But note that the Swan Lake waters are very deep and can be rough after sundown. Use something as a flotation device, like a log or a piece of wood. Alex was standing next to a log that had washed ashore in the riverbed, and she pointed at it. "See?" Alex said. "Gotcha," Connor said. The twins waited for nightfall to travel across the river to the palace. They carefully placed the log into the river and then entered the water themselves. It was unbearably cold. Connor made a high-pitched gasping sound as soon as he was waist-deep. "Just keep thinking that we only have 2 more items left to collect, and then we'll be done," Alex said as they were both shivering. "Jewels from Snow White's coffin and the saber from the deepest sea." "Jewels from Snow White's coffin and the saber from the deepest sea," Connor repeated. "Nope, I'm still cold." They held on to the log and drifted on the current to the palace. Having the log was a good call. Since the water was very choppy, the twins were getting tired just holding on to it. They probably would have drowned without it. The closer they got to the palace, the more soldiers they saw marching the grounds. "There are so many soldiers," Connor said through shivering teeth. "It's because of the Evil Queen," Alex said. "I doubt there was this much surveillance when the man from the journal came." The twins submerged themselves completely whenever they thought a soldier might be able to see them. They steered the log into the palace's moat, careful not to make a splash or cause too many ripples. They had to circle the palace twice, but eventually they found the secret gate. They let go of the log and swam under the gate. It was a much deeper dive than they had thought. Connor came to the surface on the other side and was gasping for air. He treaded water for a moment, waiting for his sister to surface, but she didn't. "Alex?" Connor asked, looking for her in the water around him. "Alex?" Connor dove back underwater. He found Alex struggling under the gate. One of the straps on her bag had caught when she'd swum under it. She was stuck, and she desperately needed air. Connor swam down to her and yanked on her bag as hard as he could to set his sister free, but it wouldn't budge. He tugged harder, and the strap finally ripped off. He helped Alex get to the surface. She was breathing harder than she had ever breathed before. She had been seconds away from drowning. Connor helped her over to the dock, and they both climbed on top of it. They were both so alarmed that they had forgotten how cold they were. "Thank you," Alex said once she caught her breath. "That was really brave of you." "I didn't have a choice," Connor said. "You had all the wishing spell items in your bag." Alex playfully hit him, and they quietly laughed. They were drenched, and their jaws were chattering so hard the sound of it echoed around them. The only way through was a stone doorway. The twins peered inside it and saw a long hallway. At one end was a spiral staircase leading down, to the dungeon, they assumed, and at the other was a spiral staircase leading up. They chose up. It led straight to another hall with a steamy odor in the air. It was very humid inside this part of the palace, and the twins soon walked by an open door and saw why. "Look, it's the laundry room," Alex said. The room was full of large, steaming tubs of water, and several garments and sheets were hung up to dry around the room. It was past working hours, so the room was empty. "I have an idea," Alex said, and darted inside the room. "What are you doing?" Connor asked her. She started digging through a pile of what Connor hoped were clean clothes and linens. "If the grounds outside are any indication, I bet the halls of the palace are swarming with soldiers," she said. "And?" Connor said. "We're going to seem very suspicious walking around soaked to the bone in our t-shirts and jeans," she explained. She pulled out 2 dresses and 2 lacy caps from the basket. "No way," Connor said, realizing what she intended to do with them. "Absolutely not." "Connor, put your pride aside and get dressed. We've come too far to get caught now," she said, pulling one of the dresses over her head. "The guys at school can never know about this," Connor said with a very serious face. "If your friends find out you traveled into the fairy tale world, I doubt this would be what they're most interested in hearing about," Alex said. The twins got dressed and looked almost identical in the same outfit. They wrapped their wet clothes in bags and towels and carried the towels to look busy. They journeyed higher into the palace, perfectly disguised as 2 maids working a night shift. The palace had beautiful marble floors and walls on the inside as well. The stained glass windows were even more beautiful with moonlight shining through them. Alex was right. Every hall and corridor was under constant watch by soldiers. Connor was too embarrassed to look any of them in the eye. He did find a few gold coins in the pocket of his maid's uniform, however, which made him feel better. Alex and Connor found the grand staircase in the middle of the palace. They climbed it to the 2nd floor and began scanning the halls for a portrait of the evil queen. Like Cinderella's palace, there were portraits of past rulers framed on the walls and statues of all 7 of the dwarves that had helped Snow White. "How do we know what the evil queen looks like?" Connor asked. "We've never seen her before." "We'll just have to guess," Alex said. They walked past a portrait of a woman sitting in a garden. All the plants and flowers were bright around her, but she wore a long, dark gown. The woman was beautiful, but she had a blank, cold expression on her face. "That's her," Alex said. There was something about the woman's eyes in the portrait that made Alex sure of it. They were beautiful, but they seemed so empty, as if all the happiness had been drained out of her soul. Alex waited for 2 soldiers to leave the hall and then tried pulling on the portrait. It was stuck. She pulled harder, and it still didn't budge. "Are you sure that's it?" Connor asked. 100%, Alex said. She gave it another good tug, and the portrait swung away from the wall like an open door. Behind the portrait was a wooden ladder that went up to the 3rd floor. All right, that's it for now, 2nd graders. I hope you'll join me for Chapter 15, Part 2 later. Bye.